Webinars are hot. As a content marketing professional, I've produced hundreds of videos for social and traditional media platforms and currently work with one of the largest podcast networks in the country. So for me, understanding how webinars work in the B2B space is both essential to my professional development and an exciting form of content creation. According to a study commissioned by digital agency Demandwave, 41% of B2B marketers cite webinars as the best marketing tactic for driving revenue. I've set out to discuss webinars with one of the foremost experts in the field, Matt Lay, president of the Streaming Network in Toronto. Together, we've created this multi-part series of videos and podcasts, the webinar Lessons from the Front Line, or How I Learned to Live with Never Getting a Second Chance with Live Virtual Events. Welcome back to the webinar Lessons from the Front Line. Today we're talking about creating content in a studio. When does it make sense? With me, as usual, is Matthew Lay, president of the Streaming Network. So we're in a studio. Yeah. This is not my basement. Those that think that this is my basement, and I know many of our audience do, this is in fact, as you'll see, this is not a brick wall, this is a studio. We are here in a studio. So the Streaming Network created a studio, built a studio. Talk to me about the history of this, of the studio and how this all came about.
Well, it came out of basically a necessity, but we've always been one of the bigger video webcasting companies or webinar companies out there. We built our brand and our name on it. And as it became easier to produce video out there, our customers wanted to do more and more complex things. And so we got on board. We loved the idea of turning a video webinar into a show. We got into doing things like you see up here with like a set that resembles like a news set or whatever it might be.
I want that set. Why can't I have that set?
Because that set is for when we gotta trick people, right? So this is the podcast. Oh. When I do webinars, that's my set.
I like the next time you're going to see us on this set.
Yeah,
this is going to be our set.
We definitely can use it. We just need to set it up. But when you're going in to do that at where we would conventionally be doing a webinar, whether it be in someone's office or it would be at a venue or whatever it might be, there's a lot of setup that goes into that, which was labor intensive for us. Right. And a lot of things can go wrong when you're setting everything up from scratch. So to really do it well, we need to go into a studio. And initially we rented studios and we found that in Toronto, there wasn't a lot of options. There were studios that were made for television, which were awesome, but expensive, generally union, not aligned with budgets of your average corporate customer. And then there were big empty spaces that were used usually for photography and a little bit of shooting to tape, but not sort of live development. Right. So with nothing being really available in our market, and I'm sure those who are listening or watching this from outside of our market, they realize there's not a lot available in most places. Yeah. We thought that would be a good investment to start building out a studio like this so that we could initially do our live events from it in a controlled environment that we knew just worked.
Right. And a lot of people, I think, they won't even use the studio, they'll use a warehouse space. And
yeah.
There's inherent problems with that. There's fans and people.
Oh, there's so many.
Chairs
so
scratching and all kinds. Streetcars, passing by, things like that.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what type of content is best delivered in a studio environment. What if you're giving somebody advice and they come to you and they say we want to do this or that? Yeah. What's your take on that?
Yeah, I think I would think about in this day and age, where are the things that we watch shot, right? So a news program, an interview, something like this is done in a studio. It's not done in someone's boardroom. Right? And even the production value of, 2020 is really high, but there's a difference when they're going out and they're in someone's living room than when they're in a studio kind of doing it. So if you're doing something that is, thought leadership based, something like what we're doing today, interview, you're looking to shoot a bunch of content that way, the studio is right for you.
Right.
Back in the day when they were initially making films, they did everything in studios, right? They would have fake sets that looked like, the Sahara Desert, or they would have a fake set that looked like a castle, and when you go back and you watch it, it looks just like that. Yeah. Same thing happens here in the studio, even with the technology and green screen and all of that. When you're doing something and you're trying to make it look like it's something else, it's going to fail. There's a reason to shoot on location.
Right.
And it's a great analogy that our director of live events, Brian Squire, made once, which is, I would never go to your factory or your boardroom to shoot a video, just like you should never come to my studio to have a meeting, is that things are made for certain things, right? And so there's times when we will say it would be great if we could do it there, but most of the time for the kind of stuff that we're doing and the kind of stuff we do for our customers, which is usually marketing, thought leadership, training and education, this place makes sense.
Right. Excellent. You mentioned thought leadership.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what happens in the studios is sort of thought leadership based types of productions.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about that, the type of work that is done here.
Yeah, and I mean it is that. In this day and age, people need to produce more video content. It's the most consumed type of content on the internet. Everyone wants to do it. They have a need to produce different lengths of video for different buyers. They have the need to constantly be coming out with new content. And so the idea of producing video for thought leadership is growing and is expanding. And I think it's because a lot of our customers are marketers who are using our webinar platform, and they initially learn about the studio so they can come in and take their webinar to the next level and do some sort of a panel discussion or something like that in studio. Then they say, hey, we could use this for something else. And so that's predominantly what's being done here. The other thing that we see done a lot is role play training videos, internal stuff, where you could record it at your office. That might make sense because you say you have access to people, but those people also have other meetings they got to run to, emails. You get them here, they're locked in a room, they schedule a day, and it's always way more productive than being done at your office.
Right. When somebody comes walking into the studio, they obviously need to come in with a certain mindset. What should people be thinking about before they even come to the studio?
Yeah. Well, like anything, you want to think about what is the outcome, right? And what are you trying to accomplish? And that sounds simple and silly sometimes just to bring it up, but it is important. You don't know what's going to happen when you get in here, right? Maybe the speaker or the panelist or whomever's on it, they're having a rough day or an off day. Maybe you've budgeted too much time for someone, but you need to ensure that you know exactly what you have to get out of the day. So you have your primary things you need to get out of the day, and then you can start looking at sort of the secondary elements that you need to get done. So that's something that people do need to think about. They also need to take a real hard look at the people that they're bringing in here. And that is to understand their strengths, their comfort levels, are they long-winded like me? Are they someone who needs to open up a little bit more? Do they work better off script or on script? If you're going to do a teleprompter, have they ever even used a teleprompter before? Because I assure you that's one good way to make a charismatic speaker look very robotic is put a teleprompter in front of them and ask them to start reading.
Yep.
Barack Obama did not come out of the womb being able to read off a prompter the way he did. That is an acquired skill that cannot be understated.
And Donald Trump still hasn't figured it out.
No, and he really I don't think he wants to be told the thing.
No.
So you got to really think about it. The studio provides this answer for you: controlled environment, good sound and lighting, sets and options to make your video look professional. But it doesn't mean that everyone's going to come in and come across professional. And you got to think about all the various things that you will do with your people to make sure that works out. Right.
Let's dig into that a little bit more. In terms of, you've seen all kinds of things. Common mistakes people make in the planning stages. In terms of and I know we've talked about this, but just because somebody's comfortable speaking publicly does not necessarily mean that they're going to be comfortable speaking when the cameras go on in these sorts of situations.
Yeah, I mean, I hear that a lot. Oh, you should see them. They just gave a speech at this conference. There was 10,000 people there, and they were awesome. Well, yeah, they're feeding off that 10,000 people. It's totally different than when they're staring down a camera, or he or she's on BNN all the time, or they're on this thing, and everything's great. Well, on those shows, what happens? You're being interviewed by someone like yourself, right? You're not, again, just sort of talking to a camera or delivering. And so that's a mistake that people make, is overestimating their talent. We are not working with professionals. We are working with lawyers, software developers, doctors. They are not professional on-camera talent, actors, or the like. So that's one big mistake that people make. The other mistake I think that people will often make is over-scripting everybody. there's certain types of videos where you need to say only types of words, short, commercials, everything is scripted, and I totally understand that. But in the realm of thought leadership, where you're trying, generally when people come in, they want to get a lot of stuff done, over-scripting can just get people to freeze up. You have to take multiple takes to get the same thing out of it. And although I assure you that if you're doing it right in a studio, you leave exhausted, you can't get wrapped up in that level of minutia with this type of a video production. And when you do, you're almost never happy with the outcome. So those would be the common mistakes that I most often see.
So when people get into the studio, they've done the preparation they need to, but once they get in here, what should they be focusing on? What's the sort of few things that you think are key?
Well, you want to be focusing on how comfortable the speaker is, or the people that you've got on camera. You want to make sure they're comfortable. And that can start with just making sure that, I always say to people when they ask me, what should I wear? Outside of certain things like, you never wear green when you're on green screen, or certain other aspects of attire that don't work, is wear what you normally wear. I'm lucky, my office is upstairs, we worked a full day, we walked down, we jumped in the studio, this is what we wore to the office today. We're both comfortable in this attire. There's nothing unique about it. But, one guest said to me, I wear a hoodie everywhere I go. He's a software or SaaS product. He's like, can I wear the hoodie on camera? I'm like, exactly what you should wear. Because this is you coming forward. Be comfortable if you're going to be comfortable. And then the other thing is that, is that everyone around should do everything they can to make the talent comfortable. This is what happens when you go on a late night program. You go into a green room and they make sure you've got your Smarties or your M&Ms that you want. They make sure that you get greeted by someone and you're shown. That's so that you're comfortable when you get on camera.
Right.
And
a glass of whiskey.
A glass of whiskey makes it easier, right? Yeah. We don't actually have booze here, but maybe that's something we should look into.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, format does this, okay? So almost every example you'll see on our YouTube page, or if you look at our various set options, of which we have a number of them, it always resembles some sort of a news broadcast, talk show, chat show, whatever it might be. And this was born out of the idea that when this industry started, when I started in this industry over 10 years ago, it started with every speaker looking at a camera. A lot of it was because we had one camera, because cameras were really expensive, and this whole thing has gotten a lot more cost effective, but everyone was looking straight at a camera. Now, before they looked at the camera, we had them talking to one another, whether it be the marketer and the thought leader, or the CEO and their person, and the things that were coming out of their mouth were passionate, they were interesting, they flowed with very few ums and ahs, and then they looked at the camera and they were froze up. They were froze up. They were staring down this weird black eye. They knew in many cases they could retake, and it just spiraled sometimes, And we thought, hey, what if we could capture what happened before? That very casual-based conversation. And so to do that, we started saying, well, let's emulate what we see in the media. Let's do the financial show, not the financial webcast. And in our model, and in the model that we've deployed, which you'll see almost everywhere, the person in your seat is the most important person. It's not me, the guy who has the ideas. It's you being able to guide us through this and make sure that we're on topic and I feel good. And if I freeze up, you can help me out or drive me to the right spot. So that host, that two-person on set, we find makes people way more comfortable than they could ever be standing there alone.
Right. And they recognize it too, because ultimately you watch The Late Show, you watch the evening news.
Yeah.
You would instantly be comfortable with it because you'd instantly recognize that, as opposed to whoever stands just looking at a camera.
Exactly. And and that's right. And I mean, people kind of get this idea. You're going to be asking me questions. I'm the smart guy or whatever, because I'm the one answering them. We are disseminating information not unlike that other model.
Yeah.
Podcast, news broadcast, Oprah Winfrey show, whatever show meets the persona of what you're trying to accomplish. People, when they look at it, they know exactly what's going to happen next, which is good. Yeah. We like that.
They already they're comfortable with it. They already understand the parameters. How do things go off the rails? So you're in a studio, and all of a sudden, and I'm sure you've seen it, I've experienced it. What happens?
Yeah. Well, so many things can happen. But let's just assume that we've got it all planned, right? Like we've got the show format, we've got the M&Ms in the lobby there. The person's wearing their hoodie and they're comfortable. We didn't overscript things. Then the normal things that happen every day that can go off the rails, and that is the world still happens outside of these doors. Mm-hmm. Since everyone who generally comes in here to talk, most people cannot turn it off for that long. We are doing corporate stuff here, is that they get pulled away. They have to take a call. They've got a bad email just came in. They just lost an account and now they've got to perform, or heaven forbid, your time with them gets cut short. And so often, if you're not just doing a live event for 1 hour where everyone locks themselves in, you're trying to do a whole day, you've got to be able to kind of roll with the punches and be able to do that. The next thing that I see that really gets things off the rails is getting into retake kind of hell. The idea that they know that they can retake something, and so they do, and now everyone starts, I don't know why it happens, the talent starts saying we should retake that, the host starts saying we should retake that, the person in the other room watching it says we should retake that one, and you're not focusing on the time or those initial goals and outcomes that you had, and you're focused on getting this thing perfect. Mm-hmm. Look, we're pretty good. We've been doing this now. This is like, I don't know, however many podcasts. 10. This is our 10th time working together on this. We're not perfect today. We're not going to be perfect 100 in. We're not. We go back and we got jobs that we got to do. Your people are never going to be perfect. Don't try and make them perfect. Yeah. We are fallible. We are human. It makes sense that when we're on here, we're not absolutely perfect, and that can really derail a day.
And I think that, in my experience as well, what the relaxed sort of state, every new take, you lose that sort of more organic kind of way of approach these things, and you'll never get it as good as when the person's just saying it for the first time.
Yeah, and let's think about, we talk about thought leadership. What is thought leadership in marketing? This type of stuff that we're doing here, it's to get people to come in and to talk to us about buying our products or knowing about our brand and all of that stuff. And so how likable and how engaging this all is as important as the content that we are delivering. Because if someone tunes out or we're not memorable or anything like that, it's not going to get them to that next stage, right? And engage with the organization or engage with the brand in general.
Yeah, oh, for sure. So what are some tips for getting the most out of the studio? What are you telling people?
Yeah, so one tip that we have is to do a content-based day. So what I mean by that is you can get a lot done in 8 hours. It's not an 8-hour day. You got lunch, you got all kinds of stuff, but you can get a lot done. So if you're going to come in, think about how to do 8 hours on a certain thing. Not just achieve that one video you want to get to. Not shoot 3 drastically different things in the course of a day, but focus on all content around a subject. So an example of this might be, we have a package now that we're doing after our CEO did it, which was a 1 day gets you 12 vlogs for the year. Come in and that's all you're doing that day. I shouldn't say all, because that becomes 1 video blog every month. That's your sort of your strategy. We have another one that's based around getting 6 long format podcasts like this done in a day, and that's a grueling day, but it also gets video for social, and it's all around one topic base, right? And so when you focus on that one topic, everyone's in the same mindset. It's real easy to do those short format clips that you need to get that executive buyer to watch. It's easy to rephrase a long-winded response like I am giving right now into something that will work in a 1 to 2 minute video. And everyone's head's in the same spot. They're not bounding around. So whether it be one topic or one person. If you got 3 thought leaders, you might think, well, I'll do 1 for 2 hours, 1 for 2 hours, 1 for 2 hours. I know why, it's cheaper. But if you're trying to do that, or you're trying to bring in 3 executives or whatever it is, focus around them. They probably need lots of content anyways. And if you focus with them, it becomes their day to accomplish everything that they want. And so I guess narrowing the scope and expanding the amount of content that you can get out of it is one way to get the most out of the studio.
Excellent. Okay. So once you're finished and you've done the production, what are sort of the next things that happen in the the continuum of production?
Yeah, the black hole of post-production, right? My favorite stories was it wasn't a studio shoot, but it was early days, and we had shot the drip bag, you know, in your hospital was that IV. It was an IV drip bag.
Yep.
And we actually got access to a doctor's office or a clinic on a weekend, which we never get. And we're in there and we're shooting in a clinic. Footage was great, and it was all about this new IV bag that was coming out. And so that we get the footage, we edit it together, and like, great. Well, here's a picture of the new IV bag. That was the old one. You can just post-production that in, right? And I remember when I got it going, what is this guy talking about? Like, I mean, at that point in time, you know, Lucasfilm couldn't post-produce, put that in there. And so, you know, I say that as an unrealistic expectation of what can happen in post-production, but post-production can become hell for these things, right? You come in because you want to get content, you know what you want them to say, they say it 3 or 4 times, you want to look at all of the footage, and then you want to decide what you're going to use for your various things. And when we give you that footage and you've got 3 to 4 hours of Pete and Matt talking about webinars with time code burnt in, and you got to decide what the cuts are that are needed, you go into what's called post-production hell.
Right.
And so...
'Cause it's all so great.
Oh, it's all so great yeah, exactly. All so great.
What can we cut out of this?
What can we cut out of this, right?
Turn it into 20
minutes.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. So what should happen is that with the proper pre-planning and with an engaged team in studio, is that everyone should pretty much know what are the golden takes, what are the pieces that they want. Mm-hmm. If you want to use something like this, like we do, that is, you know, 20, 30 minutes, and then we have our 5 minutes and our 30-second spots, well, you script it that way, you work it that way, you keep that in mind while you are shooting. If there are graphics packages or there's other elements you want to put on that, work on that beforehand in tandem so you're not going through that after. So what really should happen is you should leave the studio, and within 24 hours, you should get a look-see edit. Right. Something that just lets you, you know, see how things went or whatever. Maybe you got other footage that you want to look at. And then you should get into small tweaks on what it is that you want. And from that point on, I mean, you should really be looking at getting finished product quite quickly. And after that, what you should do is you should be talking to the team that you worked with, whether it be the speakers, whether it be us as a partner, whoever it was, your producer, and talk about what went right and what went wrong. Right. So that you can get better at doing this. We are good at doing, at every studio, not just us, everyone is good at getting you in the door, that stuff I talk about, making you feel comfortable, shooting, making sure that we sound and look good. But not knowing your company or the personality of the people that are coming in means that there's a lot that you need to learn as you start getting into being the person responsible for the video at your organization.
Great, excellent. Let's talk about today.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what we're doing here.
Yeah.
We are here in a studio, so let's break this down for our audience.
Yeah. So I mean, well, this started with you. I think we've told the story. I don't know if it was on here. We started with you pitching me many moons ago on podcasting, and I said, why would I want to do podcasting? Because I got a studio, I got webinars or whatever, and then you talked me through the importance of that. And we went and did our first series. And that first series was 6 webinars in one day. It was a bit of a tiring day, getting to know each other sort of thing. And that turned into, with, you know, the work that you did, the post-production, and then our marketing team, that turned into all the content we needed for 3 months.
Right.
And leading up to that, we were a little bit like the plumber with the leaky pipe, is that I had this studio downstairs and I had all the stuff, but we were doing, you know, 1 or 2 big webinars every quarter. And that was it. Yep. We were not doing a lot of it. And so basically what we are doing today is a continuation of what started that day, and it's I'm not going to say it's our entire content strategy, but it's pretty much based around this. Yeah. You and me go in, we figure out what we're going to talk about. We talk. It gets chopped up in many different ways. There's other people who write it and get it turned into blogs. There's people that are going to take it and turn it into ebooks, and it's basically done as the start of anything that we're going to be doing as an organization. So this is a short one, right? We're doing 2 today. Usually we do a lot more, and that's because of a call we had with our agency.
Yeah.
And they said, you know, when can you get these done? And we're like, well, I guess we can get them done this week.
Right.
And then we came in to do them because they've got plans and ads and all kinds of things that are planned based around what it is that we're getting done here today.
It also speaks to the fact we did 6 in the first day, but then you've talked about this, but it's the first album, right? We had no problem coming up with 6 for the first day. As this goes on, coming up with new subjects and not recycling, and you know, it starts to get, you know, you have to get creative.
Yeah,
right? You have to come up with whole new angles. And
the sophomore album and that sophomore jinx is there for a reason.
Yeah.
You know, I've been saying the same stuff about webinars and webcasts for a bunch of years.
Yeah.
And for most audience members who are hearing from me the first time, when I walk into a boardroom, when I'm asked to speak at a conference, that stuff's gold, right? It's the stuff that I've learned over 10 years of doing this. Yeah. I've got new stories and new iterations, but it's the same basic point. But when you do something like this and you got people coming back, right, and listening, you're right. It's hard to keep it relevant. What I think we've done and what inevitably happens as these things grow on is you start out here, all things webinar, and then you get down, and we're about here. I don't think we're here yet.
Yep.
But we go down and we did verticals earlier this year. What does it mean for financial services? Now we're doing specifically things like just studio. Not video, but just studio, when to use the studio. Yeah. You start getting more and more focused, and the more focus we get, I'm hoping, the more value that we're giving our audience too.
And we're also using data, right?
Yes.
Now we're starting to understand that there is a reason to do something about the studio because we put stuff out there. People are, you know, they're actually reacting to our, so it's like, well, of course we should do a podcast on the studio because there's other things we're doing around the studio and it's driving interest.
Exactly.
Right? So we're using the data to actually, now that we've started it, we're using the data to inform us.
But that's the thing about that too, is that because we've been on the other side too, where you know, you're working on agency like projects or like commercials and that sort of thing. And the nice thing about this idea, the start point for all of that, is what comes out of today is you get all of the stuff about the studio that is going to be turned into really great stuff, but we can do this really quickly. So if you buy into this idea about video for thought leadership in this sort of format, it allows you to be quickly reactive, right? We started getting, to your point, data, we started getting a bunch of social ads working for the studio. And we got people coming through here all the time looking to rent it and use our team. And so everyone who was measuring those ads said, we need to have something that does this or does this. And so we're able to come in here and easily do this without a lot of work, which our customers can do as well for whatever it is that is going on. Think about if we were then to go and work with those same people who ask us to do this, to do a 90-second spot on this studio. We've been talking about that for 2 months. And it's still, we don't even have the final draft yet, right? We're still reworking that. So there's a lot, it's very interesting how everything we're doing now when we're pitching it is just basically what you and me have learned doing it. Which is really neat.
Yeah, it is. And you could actually do the 90-second spot now.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, we could. Yeah,
go ahead.
I could say we cut, and then maybe we'll pretend like I just did it right there on the spot.
All right. Listen, this has been as usual very, very informative, and I've really enjoyed this. And this is, you know, my favorite thing is the studio, and part of what I pursue here. So this is it's as usual just another great podcast.
Thanks, Pete.
And we'll see you next time
for sure.
All right, 90-second pitch, take 11.
Thanks, Pete, for putting me on the spot and for that great intro. The 90-second pitch for our studio, let me see. Well, let's face it, video production can be costly and it can be basically hard to get done. And so what we try to aspire to do is to allow our customers to create a lot of video content, make it easy, and make it cost effective by basically taking a factory approach. Come to our studio and you will meet with a member of our team first so that we can review what it is that you're looking to accomplish, make sure that it's the right fit, as well as that we guide you in the right direction. Then you just pick from a list of sets like the one we're on right now, which is affectionately referred to as Pete's Basement, or one of the other sets that we have used in the past, and pick your day, and then you come in and shoot your content. Because we know what you're looking to achieve from start to finish, we can set the day up so that you can get a lot of video done, as well as get it turned around very quickly so that you can start releasing it and using it to promote your brand, your product, or whatever you're looking to do. Is that 90 seconds?
I think it was actually less.
That was actually less?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Well
Well, that's the elevator pitch, I guess.
The elevator pitch.
There we go.
There you go.